Welcome to Monday Motivations, 52 weeks to a more purposeful you. This week, we're going to be talking about topic 28, freedom from blame. And I am our guest speaker for today. So this will be fun. This will be the first episode that I'm doing on my own. So this topic, freedom from blame, it's a great topic. It's one that I think that I will probably personally need to be mindful of probably the rest of my life. I think that blame is something that I have struggled with. And when I first really started understanding this concept of blame, it was through some leadership courses, and it was a little tough for me to swallow the reality that I had used blame off and on throughout my life. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized it is kind of a human response, and we all sort of do it. So first thing I wanted to touch on was, what's the difference between blame and holding somebody accountable for something that they've done? I actually looked up the definition of blame, and it's to put responsibility of something being done wrong on another person. And so, the more you think about it and the more I think about it, there are times that we need to confront somebody or talk to somebody about a mistake that they made or a shortcoming that they had. And so what's the difference between blame and holding somebody accountable? And I think the biggest distinguishment that I have found is that when I'm blaming somebody, I'm kind of saying it's all your fault. And when I'm actually giving somebody feedback, or I'm hoping another person will take ownership of something that they were responsible for that maybe they didn't do, the energy is not going to be so much it's all your fault and really pointing the finger. It's going to be it's more of an adult to adult dynamic. So when blame is working and it's ineffective, it kind of puts us in a one up, one down dynamic with another person. So I actually am going to share my screen. I have this oldie but goodie model. It is in my coaching handbook that all my clients get. So this is the dreaded drama triangle. And Stephen Cartman, I think he created it in the 70s, and it kind of just shows unhealthy dynamics that we as people can have with others at work and at home. And we're going to talk today about the 3 different roles and how blame will come across differently depending on which role we find ourselves in. So the 3 roles in the drama triangle, the first role is the role of the victim. And so that's when we're in that place of poor me. Nobody told me. We feel powerless. We feel taken advantage of. So when we're in that victim mode, the way that blame is going to sound like is it's going to be something like, nobody told me. It was somebody else's fault. I didn't do it. But in that victim mode, blame is going to be a way for us to displace responsibility, and we're going to put responsibility on somebody else so that we don't have to taste the bitterness of us falling short. I'm going to stop the share real quick. In the book, in this topic on page 119, it says, the weight of blame is much heavier than the weight of responsibility. And I remember the first time that I heard that, I struggled with being in a victim mode quite a bit. And I remember just that concept of, when I don't like to be powerless. I don't like that feeling. But when I blame other people, it actually causes me to be powerless. And so that one concept about the weight of blame being much heavier than the weight of responsibility was motivation for me to kind of look for what's my part? What could I have done differently? And the more I would ask myself that question, what's my part? How did I co-create this situation? The more I was able to see more accurately, what are the things that I need to address with somebody else? Like what was the part that they played versus the part that I played? And a lot of things that happen at work or at home when things go wrong, if we come from that place of curiosity and ownership, we can start to separate out what are the pieces that I need to take ownership of, what are the parts that I actually contributed to the situation. And then, hey, I'd like to talk to you about what I saw your contribution was. So that first piece is all about taking ownership. So we're going to go back to the model and look at another way that we sometimes, let's see, where did it go? Here we go. Okay, so then the other approach, ways that we can place blame, besides that victim mode, sometimes we place blame from more of a persecutor mode. And like, let's say somebody does make a mistake, somebody does fall short, they don't do what they were supposed to do. If we come at them critical and focusing on their mistake, and we're using language like it's all their fault, it's not going to hold the other person accountable in a way that will build them up and challenge them. It's actually going to cause them to feel perhaps more like a victim, and it actually contributes towards lower confidence and less of a chance that they will take ownership. It causes them to be defensive. And so that persecutor mode, that blame, it's still there, but it's a lot more, instead of shifting responsibility on somebody else, it's more of that critical, you did it wrong way. And then this third mode is the rescuer role. And when we're in the role of a rescuer, this is a funny one to spot, actually. We basically might perceive somebody placing blame on somebody, say, in the role of the victim, and we think that we need to rescue them. So we're blaming the persecutor for not confronting the person in the role of the victim, right? And it's still another way of placing blame. So we're taking ownership of somebody else's situation. We're trying to rescue them, and we're aligning with them, and we're saying, yeah, that person was being a persecutor. They were wrong. They were putting too much on you. But the bottom line is, in the drama triangle, all three roles use blame, but they just use it differently. So how do we create accountability and leadership, and we cause people to be inspired to take ownership and not place blame? And it really starts with getting curious, like noticing when it's happening, like noticing when we're experiencing that blame. And I'll just tell you a funny story. This just happened to me. So a few weeks ago, I started noticing a little symbol on my dashboard, and it was saying that it was a little symbol that I knew meant that my tire pressure was low. So I tell my husband, Rusty, I'm like, hey, babe, can you check out my tires? The tire pressure symbol is up. And he said, oh, no, that's not for the tire pressure. That just means that you need to take your car in for maintenance, which I knew that I needed to do that. And even though I knew that that symbol was for the low tire pressure, I went ahead and listened to him. And I didn't do anything about the car. I just kept driving it. I did a couple of long trips, 2 hours each way. And then I started noticing when I was turning in parking lots, my tires screeching. So I Googled, RAV4, tire screeching, driving slow speed. And one of the reasons they said was low tire pressure. So I did a screenshot, I sent it to him, and I insist again that this is a low tire pressure problem. Will you please go check out my tires, figure it out? He insists again that car maintenance needs to happen. About a week later, I walk out to my car and one of my tires is nearly flat. I am livid. Right away, I take a picture, I send it to him, and I'm like, I told you this was low pressure. And what am I doing? I'm in full-blown persecutor mode. I am blaming him for my tire pressure being low. And long story short, I got it resolved. I actually had to get new tires, but I'm sharing it with you because I just want to encourage all of us. Anybody could experience this temptation to blame, but the solution is always going to be awareness. Let's be aware. I'm going to pull up and share my screen again of our sweet little drama triangle. Let's be aware of when this is happening so we can step out of the drama triangle. And there's a solution to the drama triangle. It is the empowerment dynamic. And David Emerald created this model which counters the Cartman drama triangle. And all three roles in here, these are leadership type roles, the role of the creator. So what could I have done if I was in the role of the creator? As soon as I knew it was tire pressure and Rusty pushed back and insisted that it wasn't, I'm a grown woman. I could have driven my car to the dealership, or I could have gone to a gas station and checked it. But no, I think I was in this little cute role of the victim. Poor me, I can't. And I also could have been a challenger. I could have insisted and pushed a little more. Challengers, they're not like persecutors where they're criticizing and putting down other people and making them all wrong. But challengers will be courageous. They will confront. I could have said, will you, I could have been direct. Will you please look at this for me? I am asking for your help. Or I didn't, probably the role of the coach wouldn't have been such a great role in that situation. But the bottom line is we all do blame. And Brene Brown talks about this, that blame is discharged pain. And so when any of us are in a painful or an uncomfortable situation, it's going to be a temptation for us to blame instead of taking ownership. And I just want to encourage everybody watching. That's why I'm using myself as an example. We all have weak moments. We all get stressed out. We all get tempted to step into one of the roles in the drama triangle. When we do, we just got to get aware I'm in it and then get curious, what's really going on? And what role could I step into? I am creative, I am resourceful, and I am capable of solving my own problems. My car is not my husband's problem, but I was putting that on him. I was coming from a role of a victim. Then I stepped into a role of a persecutor, and I wanted him to step into the role of a rescuer and rescue me from my problem. So freedom from blame. I think it's all about us growing up. The quote at the top says, take your life in your own hands. And what happens? A terrible thing, no one to blame. Or it's a wonderful thing. We see how much we're capable of doing. A lot of times we're not building more confidence because we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. For whatever reason, I just didn't want to handle it. And I did create clarity in the future. He's going to test my tires if that little symbol comes up. And I even showed him in the manual. But the more important part of it is just me being aware and having self-compassion and recognizing when blame creeps up in me. What am I going to do about it? And what are you going to do about it? There's way too much blame in our workplace. There's way too much blame in our homes and in our families. And I think the more we talk about it and we normalize it, not normalize it in it's okay, but normalize it in that it happens, and be able to confess to each other like, hey, I was really in victim mode and I totally blamed you for this and I'm sorry, which I did have that conversation. So I hope everybody has an amazing week and watch for blame creeping up. You can handle it. You're a leader. And next week, let's see what we have going on. Next week, our topic is happiness. So meet us back next week for Monday Motivations. And thank you so much for letting me be your guest speaker. Have a good one.